Recently, I've been thinking a lot about nostalgia, mostly about nostalgia in terms of the media I consume. Ever since I've started university, I found myself consuming more media that I used to enjoy as a child. It makes me feel safe to put on an episode of My Little Pony or Girl Meets World and just feel like a child again. I feel like Gen Z might be the most nostalgic generation yet. Of course, there's no ironclad way of knowing that, but it seems like I see more posts online of people talking about being nostalgic for past times in their lives from people in their 20s rather than older people. I find myself to be a very nostalgic person, which can be a great feeling or a really crappy one. Growing up is frightening, and it has definitely been very hard for me to navigate as an extremely stressed out and anxious person. I constantly find myself missing playing hopscotch during recess and eating crown-shaped chicken nuggets from Burger King. The thing I find myself being most nostalgic for is media. I feel like a good chunk of the media I consume nowadays is from my childhood, or has some sort of nostalgic quality to it, whether it's a show that I watched on a loop in high school or something that got me through the COVID-19 pandemic. I want to talk about nostalgia in media, what makes it good and what makes it bad. Think about the shows that you watch that are currently on the air right now. How many can you think of? For me, off the top of my head, I can think of Abbott Elementary, Anything Marvel, Ninjago, Monkey Kid, and Percy Jackson. That's not really a lot. It's quite the difference from when I was young and I had about 10 or more different shows that I was really invested in that would air new episodes on a regular basis. When I think about why there are not as many currently airing shows I watch, there's one point that I keep coming back to. Most of the shows that are airing right now seem to be much more dark and depressing than the shows I watched growing up. When I think about my childhood, I watched shows like Girl Meets World, Jessie, Corner Gas, and Phineas and Ferb. When I think about what is airing right now, I think about dramas like The Bear and Grey's Anatomy. I've watched clips of The Bear and I don't get how it keeps getting nominated in the comedy category at award shows. I'm a very sensitive person and I can only take deep, emotional topics in moderation. I also can't handle a lot of yelling, even in media, and The Bear is full of it. If the main topic of a show is a dark and depressing topic, there's an 80% chance I'm not going to watch it. In a world that's so dark and scary, I don't want to consume media that is also dark and depressing. So I seek out media that has a lighter tone and is comforting in a way. One current show airing right now that I love is Abbott Elementary. That show is one of the most comforting pieces of media for me, and in my opinion there needs to be more shows like this. When I come back from school after a day of lectures and anxiety-filled social interactions, I want to sit down and watch something comforting, and there just isn't a lot of current things I can put on to watch that are comforting. I usually end up putting on an episode of My Little Pony. The lighthearted nature of the show and the comforting feeling it gives me is something familiar from my childhood helps me to relax and wind down my day with less anxiety. When I've had a stressful day, I usually find myself putting on an episode of early Ninjago so I can relax with the silly little ninja plots that aren't as dark as the later seasons, although I still watch those ones a lot. I do feel a little nostalgia towards those episodes as they were some of the first ones I watched with my brother when Netflix only had the first 5 seasons. A lot of my favorite episodes of the show are the more lighthearted ones. Sticks and Stones from season 5 is such a goofy episode, but it is one of my top 3 favorite episodes, and probably one of the episodes I've watched the most from the show. Another show that has a nostalgia quality for me is Brooklyn Nine-Nine, because I started watching it in high school and I watched it a lot through the pandemic and everything, and for that reason it has a nostalgia quality for me back to high school, even though I hated high school. Let me put it this way, when I come home after a long day, I'm more likely to put on an episode from season 5 of Ninjago over an episode of Seabound. I still haven't watched the Seabound finale in full since it aired. Even recent shows that I enjoy like Percy Jackson are rooted in nostalgia for me. I started reading the Percy Jackson series in the 4th grade and it has been a big part of my childhood that I've kept with me as I've grown up. Although the show is new and has a fresh spin on the series, my favorite part of it is being able to watch a familiar story so close to my heart. Nostalgia is all about holding on to a comforting, happy feeling from your past, and I think that's why my media consumption is very rooted in nostalgia. Although I have some nostalgia for Ninjago, I didn't get into Ninjago until 2018 when Hunted was airing. For that reason, I don't feel as much nostalgia toward the show because it still feels relatively new in my life. While I still view it as a more recent piece of media in my life, a majority of the fandom has a strong nostalgic attachment to it. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but along with the good comes the bad. The Ninjago community has a huge nostalgia bias problem. Whenever I open TikTok and see a post about Ninjago, it's usually from someone who's only seen the first 2 seasons or maybe up to Hands of Time. And it's always a post that says something like, Kai should have been the Green Ninja, or current Ninjago could never be as good as this. And it always makes me laugh. There's something wrong with preferring those seasons, but like really, the whole point of the first season was proving why Kai shouldn't be the Green Ninja, and people are still set on that. It just makes me laugh. The reason why nostalgia bias is a huge problem in the Ninjago fandom is because of the way people treat fans who enjoy the newer stuff. I've seen a lot of bullying towards people who actually enjoy the new seasons. I have even experienced it. I've had people comment on my TikToks about Dragon Rising saying that I was stupid for liking the new show. It's so unnecessary. I don't care if they don't like it, but why do you have to come after me for enjoying it? Nostalgia bias becomes a huge problem when people resort to bullying others. I think it's also funny how a lot of people's defense for hating on the newer seasons, and subsequently the fans who enjoy those seasons, is that the older seasons are written better. Yes, they're still written well, but I think it's very clear that the newer seasons are written much better. And that's normal. Writers should be progressing as shows go along, not regressing like the writers of How I Met Your Mother. Sorry, I had to get that joke in there. The early seasons of Ninjago are great. Great characters, great stories, but also cringy dialogue and major plot holes. The newer seasons aren't perfect, but I feel that they're much less plot hole ridden than the early seasons. You can't tell me you enjoyed the love triangle over Aaron's betrayal in Dragon's Rising. A lot of people also seem to compare the animation, which I think is weird. And I'm sorry, but you can't tell me you like this over this. The animation has only progressed. Why should that be a bad thing? We should be enjoying it, celebrating it. Well, I know I am. Nostalgia bias is also very ridiculous in this fandom when it comes to the character redesigns. Nostalgic fans act like Rumpelstiltskin stole their firstborn when they talk about the redesign changes. The redesigns are clearly better than the original designs. Most of the original designs were taken from pre-existing LEGO minifigures, but with the newer designs, they are completely unique to the ninja. The redesigns are more detailed and full of personality than the original designs. I much prefer Jay's curly hair and freckles over his generic Lego man hair. I'm not saying you can't like the old designs better, I mean they are still cute, but you don't have to hate on the show or fans for liking them. It's really just so unnecessary and you're wasting your own time being mad at people for enjoying them. I think unnecessary is the key word here. Nostalgia is a perfectly fine feeling and a very human feeling to experience, but sometimes people take it too far, and that's when it can become a problem. To round out this video, I want to talk about My Little Pony a little more. My Little Pony has been a constant in my life. I've loved it ever since I was very little. It's probably the most nostalgic piece of media for me. It's been interesting to rediscover the show as an adult because I was not a part of the online fandom as a kid. I knew that there were adult fans of the show because Friendship is Magic became such a phenomenon, but I was too young to be on social media back then, and I'm really glad. The only media I had was the show, the Equestria Girls movies, and online games. I think having an experience with media without being a part of an online community makes that nostalgic feeling a little more special to me. I didn't have anyone's outside opinions affecting my enjoyment of the show. Now that I'm an adult and I've rewatched the show after years of not seeing it, I've interacted with online fandom. I wouldn't say as much as I have with the Ninjago community, but quite a bit. It's much different to me interacting with this community than the Ninjago community. The MLP fandom doesn't have as much nostalgia bias as far as I have seen. It's been interesting to hear the opinions of fans who didn't watch the show as kids. They have different opinions than me in some cases, but I don't see that as a bad thing. I don't feel upset when I hear people say they prefer later seasons of Friendship is Magic over the others. I think I'll always prefer the older seasons of the show just because of my emotional attachment to them, but I don't mind hearing out people's opinions on why they prefer the newer seasons. I know a lot of people have the opinion that Twilight shouldn't have become a princess so early, but I have always liked that choice. I know a lot of people don't like the Equestria Girls movies, and I can totally see why. When I talk about these differing opinions, it doesn't even make me mad. I see where they're coming from, and I know where I'm coming from, and it's really fine. It's not worth getting upset over people having different opinions. It's been really special engaging with the fandom as an adult, but also having those special memories as a child stay untainted. I think it's a feeling that's hard to replicate with many other pieces of media for me. I didn't even get into the nostalgia bias of the Marvel fandom, but that's a whole other can of worms. The Marvel fandom also has more problems than just nostalgia bias. When I thought of the idea for this video, I looked up articles on nostalgia and found an interesting one. The article mentions that savoring nostalgia is a perfectly normal feeling and can be an important part of growing up. The author mentions savoring things that have been a constant in your life. Holding on to things, whether they be physical or media, can help foster feelings of familiarity and comfort that are important to hold on to as we grow up and things rapidly change. Having an item or a show to turn to for support and familiarity can make things a little easier for us. I think that's why I keep going back to old pieces of media. They've always been around for me, and having something I've seen before gives me a sense of familiarity that I need as things change in my life. I'll link the article in the description if you want to check it out. If there's a nostalgic piece of media in your life, feel free to let me know what it is in the comments. I'd love to hear about your guys' nostalgic pieces of media. Also, let me know what you think about this topic in general. Thanks for checking out this video, and I hope you'll subscribe for more.